weather's superb. We don't often run meetings this far into the summer because we respect people who like to be, go out and enjoy the weather. But again, thank you very much for taking the time out to attend this evening. Adele, thank you. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this the first time that you've ever stood up in front of an audience and presented?
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of put Adele on the spot. I remember the first time I stood up in front of an audience, I looked at everyone and I froze. And I had to turn around and I didn't know what to say. And I just remember and said, it's great, isn't it? But it's just something you get used to. I'm not quite used to it yet, but hopefully I'll get better with age. Good cheese. Okay, my story, I won't bore you all with all the intricacies, but I got smashed up by a lorry, motorbike accident back in 1980, and I really was totally smashed to bits. The only things that weren't broken were my spine and my right arm. Everything else was in pieces. And when you go back that far as a young, fit teenager, and you're stuck in a hospital bed for 6 months, you've got to think to yourself, well, where's my life going? What can I do? And the trees outside are all green and the sun's out, and you just want to be out there. And then the autumn comes and the trees start going brown, and the next thing you know, all the leaves are dropping off the trees. You're kind of sitting there thinking, I'm wasting my life being in a hospital bed when I couldn't walk, couldn't do anything. Eventually got out into a wheelchair and really just had to get my act together to see what I was doing in life. And dare I say, lots of people in the bed next to me, they kept moving these people in, and I kept talking with them, and next thing I know, they were dead. One chap I was talking to, and he literally passed away as I was talking to him. And it's quite an experience, quite humbling. So, totally transformed my life. It absolutely changed the way I thought about everything. A career, what's a career? Just everything. And all that kept going through my mind was what the doctors were telling me. When I'm an old man, I'm going to have false knees, false hips, false ankles, false elbow. My head will fall off. All kind of these types of things. But it planted a seed, and there was another seed on the other side. And one seed was, and it's talking the financial seed, that seed was, I wasted all this time in a hospital bed. I spent all of these months in a wheelchair. I was on crutches for years. Could I get that time back? No, it's gone. So what could I do? I could stop work as soon as I could. And that was really my only option. And that was to find a way to earn money without having wasted my time going to work, to a job, to earn it. So of course I thought about property, rental and things like that, but anyway, life moved on. The other seed that was niggling away at me was all the problems that I was due to get in my future life. Now bearing in mind that was 1980, now we're 2013, so 33 years? A long time, and I'm overdue hip replacements, I'm overdue ankle replacements, knee replacements. My elbow should have been done. So what did I do different? I researched, I investigated, I looked at everything that could prevent the onslaught of arthritis, to prevent future challenges. And cutting the story back a bit, I actually found, exactly as Adele touched on, that the root cause of virtually everything we find that's a disease or an ailment in the human body today is the lack of minerals. The mineral deficiency in our soil, it's not make-believe, it's fact. If the minerals aren't in the soil, they're not going to be in the food that grows in that soil. It's just that simple. And if you think about it, if you keep growing and keep growing in the same soils, you're just continually depleting those minerals. So I researched and I scoured the world to the point where I was getting on aeroplanes going to see people about what it was I needed. I ended up ultimately in America, a very small company out there providing the liquid version of our minerals, big litre bottles, and every year I was buying a huge box, shipping it over, and that was when I first started on the plant-derived minerals many, many years ago. Had I not done that, as it says there, I'm convinced, along with some of the world's top heart surgeons, that I'd be dead today. Now, here's a great question for everybody when we're talking about plant-derived minerals. Who has ever had a test called an angiogram? A few people know about angiograms. An angiogram is probably, I've been through some muck and bullets in my time, but an angiogram is where they pop a tube in your artery and you get a video of the inside of your arteries. And I had one of these angiograms done. And what the angiogram showed is that the inside of my arteries were abnormal. But they were abnormal in a really positive way. The heart surgeon that did the test, the normal chap at the Royal Brompton in London, couldn't do the test. The average guy that did these angiograms, he wasn't allowed to because I had something that was a bit abnormal called an aortic aneurysm. And the guy they brought in to do the test was a guy called Professor Anthony Rickards. He did the test and he said, "You're abnormal. You've been putting acid through your arteries." And I'm kind of laughing about this. You know, I kind of felt a hero to be on this hospital bed and this big video screen above me. He said, no. He said, "You don't understand. Your arteries are too clean. They're too good. They're like a teenager. There's no furring, there's no calcification, there's no signs of hardening. It's a miracle. They're abnormal. What are you doing?" And all I've been doing was consuming these minerals. And the little thing I had called an aortic aneurysm, he explained this to me. Now, for those, I assume there's people in the audience that don't know what an aortic aneurysm is. Okay, and for those that don't, what it is the main, in this case, the main artery that comes out of the heart, it has a weakness in the wall, and this dated back to my motorcycle accident. And the weakness starts to balloon, and it produces, in effect, like a little bubble on the artery. If that bursts, you're dead. There's no ifs or buts. You've got a minute, a nice dizzy feeling, so I'm told, and you're dead. And this Professor Anthony Rickards was telling me, when they get to about 3 centimetres in diameter, they get painful. You notice them, and it's about time you should think about getting something done. When they get to 5.5 centimetres, that's when they become volatile, and they usually burst at 5.5, 6.5 centimetres. This baby I had in here was 10.5 centimetres in diameter. It was horrific, unbeknown to the medical profession, to the point where Anthony Rickards was lecturing other heart surgeons that morning. He invited them to come in and see this miracle that hadn't burst, just so they could witness it, to see what had happened. I felt quite a hero, I must admit, but then he turned around and said to me, "We don't know what we can do with it. We can't stent it, we can't repair it." And all they could do, literally, and John loves this bit, they cut it out and put a bit of Gore-Tex tube in its place. That was problematic, and I won't step into that today. That's another part of my saga of life. So, had it not been for these plant-derived minerals, that would have burst, most definitely. I wouldn't be here today to share this time with you or anybody else for that matter.